Oh, please.
Yeah.
Welcome to WatchMojoUK, and today we're counting down our picks for the 10 reasons people hate Gregg Wallace. Gregg has his fair share of critics, with numerous anecdotes of him allegedly being rude and obnoxious in person, as well as his uncomfortable comments about marriage. And for this list, we'll be looking at some of the reasons you may or may not know about that seem to rub people the wrong way.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Number 10. Parenting. Gregg Wallace's recent article about how he spends his Saturdays really raised a lot of eyebrows. The whole thing sounded like a bizarre, humble brag. But what really caused a backlash was his comments about his own son. In the schedule, he notes that he spends exactly an hour and a half with his son. He then goes on to unload in the exact same paragraph about how he didn't want another child and that he only had one to make his wife happy. Some read this as him not wanting to spend time with his non-verbal, autistic child, and it really didn't help that he followed it up by saying he goes on to immediately spend 2 hours, which is a whole half hour more, playing the video game Total War Saga right after this. Number 9. The Factory.
This is one of the most popular chocolate bars in the world.
There was a lot of speculation as to why Wallace was suddenly no longer going to be the host of the show Inside the Factory on BBC Two in 2023. His original reason for doing this was to spend more time with his young son. However, this turned out to not be the only contributing factor. Allegedly, during his time at the York Nestle factory, he made a number of inappropriate comments to female members of the staff. One source stated that he was, quote, rude towards staff and continued to talk in a derogatory manner, especially to women. Some accounts state that people outright refused to work with him. Not a good look if the claims are true. Number 8. Miracle Meat.
It sounds like magic.
One of Wallace's last television appearances was in the 2023 mockumentary Gregg Wallace, The British Miracle Meat. The programme puts Wallace in the spotlight as he investigates a supposed lab-grown meat which could help Brits in a financial crisis. Shock horror, the meat is made from human tissue.
That's right, a protein made from human cells.
The comedy received mixed reviews from critics and a considerable number of complaints to Ofcom. Some complained that the commentary on the cost of living crisis came across as completely tone deaf. Meanwhile, The Telegraph's review of it said it played out like a Black Mirror episode stripped of cleverness and subtlety. Number 7. The rest of his routine. We mentioned earlier what was probably the most egregious segment of his Saturday schedule article, but we'd be remiss to not mention some of the other outrageous claims that really ruffled some readers' feathers. The waking up at 5 AM to read a book part is bizarre enough, but imagine being an employee at a local gym and having Gregg Wallace show up at the front door half an hour before it even opens every day, demanding that he use the swimming pool and sauna alone. Then there was the fact he has a big fry up at Harvester, then goes home to eat lunch an hour and a half later there. But hilariously, what really ticked people off was his final comment about going to bed at 8 because he doesn't want to lie on the couch and eat biscuits like us regular folk. Eating biscuits is our God-given right as Brits, Gregg. Overall, the article came across as a bit pretentious and try-hardy, with many drawing similarities between Gregg Wallace and Alan Partridge.
18 till I die. I'm gonna be 18 till I die.
Number 6. He's everywhere. Maybe it's no fault of his own, but with the sea of talent the UK has to offer, it's crazy how much of him we have to see on telly. Charlie Brooker famously brought this up in his Weekly Wipe TV show, listing the massive number of shows he was on at the time.
They make him judge meals in the super tense MasterChef. He stir-fries whatever that is in the entertaining British food revival. He jigs around on the glamorous Strictly Come Dancing.
It's the same sort of exposure that turned a lot of viewers against the likes of James Corden. Those who don't see the appeal of him have to suffer throughout the whole thing. Indeed, Wallace fatigue seems to be quite a common issue.
Say what you like about the licence fee, you can't complain about how much Gregg Wallace you get for your money.
Number 5. Mad about shopping. People really don't like being told what to do, particularly when it comes to what we eat. Just look at the backlash against Jamie Oliver when he took aim at unhealthy eating in the UK. But at least he seemed to be genuine about his stance.
Gregg Wallace is a good choice for this show because he reminds you of the cheapest food there is, the potato.
Wallace on the show Eat Well for Less, on the other hand, just comes across as a bit insincere to some viewers.
There is no point buying this stuff for inside cupboard decoration.
Some said that he was just too hammy and over the top, asking, are we seriously supposed to believe he's this mad about people buying beans?
Beans! 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 There's beans everywhere!
There was not much meat on the bone of this show, so they really tried to make something out of nothing for an entire hour each episode.
Onions, onions, what you gonna do? Onions, onions.
For me and you.
Number 4. Rude treatment. Following the backlash from Wallace's outrageous article, one ex-user came forward with their unpleasant experience with him. That person was author Mimi A, who was once invited to a cook-off in which Wallace was one of the judges. According to her post, Wallace said her name, which is quite a common Burmese name, was silly, and he gave her a rude nickname for the rest of the day instead. He also had some very odd comments when it came to Mimi's traditional Burmese cooking. Many came to her support, with some labelling his actions as casual racism.
What's the matter now? It's foreign.
Number 3. Offensive remarks. Years ago, Wallace made a guest appearance at the Dundee Flower and Food Festival. There he got a chance to be on stage and present to the audience. However, he ended up using this platform to take aim at food allergy sufferers. To paraphrase, he seemed to remark that he gets annoyed when people with food allergies turn up to his restaurant saying what they can and can't eat. He went on to say he wants to, quote, have legislation that if you've got an allergy to something, you must give formal 48 hours warning to the restaurant of what you can't eat. Many argued that it is a common courtesy in practice to accommodate people with these problems. After all, food allergies are far more common than some expect, so for Gregg Wallace to make comments like this when it affects a sizable portion of the population just comes across as uninformed, needlessly rude, and entitled.
Case! Case! Case!
Number 2. He's not even a chef.
I just assumed, as well as being master greengrocer, at some stage you had actually been a professional chef, but you never have been.
Popular misconception.
Perhaps one of the most frustrating things about Wallace is that he's the host and judge of MasterChef, and he isn't even one himself. He spends much of the episodes clapping his hands together and yelling, "Let's get moving," as such as if he's Gordon Ramsay.
Don't give them waiting, they're better than you.
But in actuality, he's just a former greengrocer. Many question what right does he have to judge other people's cooking when he doesn't have the experience himself.
What the f*** would you know about attention to detail? You're not a chef, mate. What are you? Who are you?
Some would argue that he opened 2 restaurants, but again, he was not a chef there. What's more, both those restaurants folded in less than 5 years. Number 1. Master what? Perhaps the most telling display of the moral fibre of Gregg Wallace came back in 2013, on the platform formerly known as Twitter. It's a screen cap that has circulated around the app and haunted Wallace ever since. One user approached Wallace for support for an upcoming charity event for people suffering from cancer. Wallace's response, being upset that the user spelt his name with 1 G instead of 2. That's when we got Nick's now legendary response, where he labelled a word that contains 2 T's and a W. And no, it isn't twit. So what's your stance? Love him or loathe him? Let us know in those comments below.
Greg. Greg? I ain't eating that.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojoUK and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.